Wait a minute. I already told you, but I really didn't cheat on my husband. My mother-in-law and husband were making assumptions and saying things as if it were a matter of course. I quickly denied it, but my mother-in-law didn't stop. My son is sterile, so there's no way you could get pregnant. If we get a medical certificate, it would confirm you are fair. Well, we don't need to get one. It's absolutely clear. When I tried to argue with her, my mother suddenly slapped me. I looked at my parents, who were both looking at me coldly. My name is Anna. I'm a 34-year-old office worker. My husband William and I got married last year after dating for several years. We both work, so we share the household chores and have a well-balanced life. My husband can cook, clean, and do laundry. I'm very thankful for that. We're able to live like this without any stress. So I'm living a happy, newlywed life. I'm sure that I will continue to live happily with my husband. I've had the desire to have children since the beginning of our marriage. Until I was in my 20s, I lived my life thinking that work came first. But when I saw my friends around me happily raising their children, I began to think that I wanted to have a child too. However, perhaps because of my age, I have not been able to have children. I was happy in my marriage, but there are also many discouraging moments. But I never gave up hope that a baby would come to us. Then, one morning, I woke up and felt sick. I thought it may be, and I immediately checked with a test kit. Then the test showed a positive result. Could I really be pregnant? I was a bit shaken, but I called in late to work and went to the hospital. Yes, it's definitely pregnancy, and I can hear the baby's heartbeat. Are you sure? Yes, you're in your 3rd month. Congratulations. Please go get your maternity handbook too. I couldn't hide my happiness and listened to the doctor with tears in my eyes. I can't wait to tell my husband and share my joy. I couldn't stop being excited and went to the supermarket on my way home to pick up some food. I wondered if my husband would cry and be happy too, and then we would hug each other. My head was filled with such imaginations even after I arrived home. I cooked dinner in a happy mood. Finally, at night, my husband came home. Whoa, the dinner looks amazing today, he said as he untied his tie. I couldn't stop smiling and said to him, to tell you the truth, I got pregnant. And he said, What? Pregnant? He looked surprised. I was expecting him to scream in joy after that. But he had a surprising reaction. Whose baby is it? What? I asked you whose child it was. He asked, looking at me with cold eyes. What's the matter with you? Of course it's yours, I said, and he sighed. I'm sterile. What? So it's not mine. I had no idea you were having an affair. I'm disappointed. Wait a minute. I'm not having an affair. This baby is yours. I told him that, but he wouldn't listen to me. Just give me some time. I'm going back to my parents' house. And he left the house. He didn't even touch any of the food I had made for him. A few days later, my husband called my parents and said he wanted to have a talk with them. I told him that I wanted to discuss it with him alone first. But he didn't listen to me at all, so we decided to meet at my parents' house this coming Saturday. I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't explain well to my parents. So when my in-laws came over, my mother asked, "What's going on?" "What is it? You guys haven't heard anything from your daughter?" "I heard that your daughter is pregnant, but it's not my son's." My parents froze. "I didn't think Anna would cheat on him." I guess I was the only one who thought we were a good married couple. Wait a minute, I told you the other day that I really didn't have an affair. My mother-in-law and husband took it for granted that I was the one at fault. I quickly denied it, but my mother-in-law didn't stop. "My son is sterile, so there's no way she could have gotten pregnant." If we got a medical certificate, it would confirm the affair. Well, but we don't need that. It's absolutely clear. When I tried to argue with her, my mother suddenly slapped me. I looked at my parents, who were both looking at me coldly, and my husband and mother-in-law both gave me a sneering look. Well, you deserve to be slapped. You committed adultery and never apologized for it. When my mother-in-law said that, my mother bowed her head and said, "I'm sorry, I apologize." "Come on, you too, apologize quickly." My mother urged me to apologize. My father also apologized to my mother-in-law and my husband, saying that his daughter had caused a lot of trouble. He grabbed my head and forced me down to apologize. I brushed my father's hand away and told him to listen to me for a minute. But they wouldn't listen to me. They are furious with me. "You've caused us so much trouble and brought us so much shame. You are no daughter of this family." My father shouted in front of my mother-in-law and my husband. "Oh my God, they disowned you." "Well, you got what you deserved." My mother-in-law and my husband are just watching and laughing at me. Then the living room door opened and my sister walked in. "Dad? Mom? Please calm down a little bit." Thank God she's finally here. My father is furious with my sister too. "I don't know how you can be so calm after hearing all this. Besides, it's none of your business." "We're family, of course it's my business." "My sister had told me everything before you arrived. Is it true that you are sterile?" My mother-in-law and her husband looked at my sister with a questioning look on their faces. "Is it possible that your sister-in-law suspects us, William?" "No, not at all. But I think it would make things easier if we had some facts to back it up." She proceeded very calmly. "When did you have the examination?" My husband and mother-in-law looked at each other. "He didn't have any tests." "What?" I froze when I heard it. My sister is surprised too. "Well, then how can you assume that he's sterile?" "What? Are you trying to intimidate us? He hasn't tested, but it's true." My sister asked if it would be okay if she asked my mother-in-law how she could be so sure. My mother-in-law let out a sigh of annoyance and started to tell us the reason. "You know, my son was married once when he was young. This boy couldn't have children after 7 years of marriage. And after the divorce, his ex-wife got pregnant right away. This means my son was the reason she couldn't get pregnant. Now, do you believe me? This time, I could tell she was cheating on him because he is sterile." The idea that you would cheat on my son but still want to stay married to him is repulsive. You're a disgusting woman. You know that? My mother-in-law said as she glared at me. My husband agreed with my mother-in-law and said, "Yes, you are disgusting. You even made a child that I couldn't have. You are beyond insulting me." I was absolutely mortified. That's not proof that my husband is sterile, but there was no way I could argue with them without any knowledge of the matter. I looked at my sister to ask for help. She noticed this, looked at me, nodded lightly, and started talking again. "I see. I can see why you would think you had a problem if you had such an experience. But I can't say for sure that your son is sterile just because of that. There are families that have children after 10 years of marriage, and without any particular fertility treatment." When my sister said that, my mother-in-law butted in. "Don't try to mount me with the information you found on the internet. You're not a doctor, so what you say is meaningless." My mother-in-law said that, and I wondered if she listened to me properly when she met my family. "I'm a doctor and an obstetrician." When my sister answered, both my mother-in-law and my husband said, "What?" I was stunned. Apparently, they really hadn't listened to my sister's story. My sister was also dumbfounded and said, "I've explained it to you when we met before their marriage. The whole story is that you are just speculating about this. It seems that you are all blaming my sister based on mere speculation. If you really want to blame my sister, let's do a proper examination. Since you are my relative, I'll do it for a reasonable price." When my sister said that, my husband and mother-in-law both flinched. But now that we've come this far, there seems to be no turning back. "If you insist, let's check it out." My husband and mother-in-law agreed to my sister's proposal. And later, the test was conducted. I decided to stay at my sister's house until the test results came out. I didn't want to see my husband, and I didn't want to go back to my parents' house. My sister tried to cheer me up many times while we were at home together. This kept me from worrying more than I should have. A few weeks later, the test results came out. We gathered at my parents' house again to look at the test results together. It turned out that there was nothing wrong with my husband's body. My mother-in-law's face turned blue and my husband was surprised. "Anna, I'm sorry, but I'm glad to know that there's nothing wrong with me and that I can prove that the child is mine." My husband said so matter-of-factly that I was once again speechless. Who was it that agreed with my mother-in-law to accuse me by mere assumptions? My mother-in-law also laughed and said, "If this is the way it's going to be, you should have had the test done earlier." She didn't even apologize to me. I guess that settles it for now. My husband was so proud of himself. I thought, I can't be with such a man anymore. My husband thought the discussion was over and said, "Let's go home together." But I didn't want to go home. My sister, perhaps sensing my feelings, said, "I don't think she has quite sorted out her feelings yet, so I'll take care of my sister." My husband reluctantly agreed, and finally my husband and mother-in-law left my parents' house. What a mother and son! They almost had us fooled too. "I'm sorry I slapped you the other day, but this is all their fault." My parents blamed my mother-in-law and my husband, but from my point of view, my parents were also to be blamed. My sister took me to her apartment right away. I was so relieved when I got to the apartment that I couldn't stop crying. My sister didn't say a word the whole time, just hugged me and comforted me. No one believed me, and they all looked at me with cold suspicion, which really scared me. In the middle of all this, my sister was the only one who stood by me. I'm so glad that I talked to my sister the day before the meeting was taking place at my parents' house. She went out of her way to come to my parents' house for me, and I really can't thank her enough. After that, I stayed at my sister's house for a few days to rest my body and mind. Then I made one decision and went with my sister to the house where my husband was. My husband greeted me by saying, "Welcome home. I've been waiting for you." He was surprised to see my sister and one other person. My sister-in-law, and who is the other person? He's a lawyer. I asked him to come today. Lawyer? My husband was very upset. Why a lawyer? I can't live with you anymore. Please, let's get a divorce. When I said the word divorce, he turned blue. Wait a minute. That's out of nowhere. It's not that sudden. After everything that happened. No, I'm sorry about that. But you can't just get a divorce on that grounds. The lawyer explained to him about that. As far as I can tell, the fact that you and your mother blamed Anna blindly would be a reason for divorce. And knowing that Anna wanted to have children, but you married her by hiding the fact that you were infertile from her is a problem. I think my husband didn't expect this. He nodded his head but seemed to be in shock. With my husband on the side, I packed up my belongings and returned to my sister's house. After that, I communicated with my husband through my lawyer. I asked my husband for compensation for the emotional pain and suffering he had caused me, as well as for property division and child support. Because I had a good lawyer, I was able to get him to pay all of them. Moreover, my mother-in-law and my husband had told everyone in the neighborhood and at work that I was having an affair. I sued them for defamation of character. In addition to getting some more money, my mother-in-law and my husband corrected and apologized to the person whom they had told a lie. As a result, my mother-in-law and my husband lost all the credibility. They have been isolated recently. I decided to live just down the street from my sister's house and rented an apartment. My parents offered me to move back home and help raise their grandchildren, but I politely declined. I don't want my parents, who didn't protect me, to take care of my child. As a matter of fact, my sister also had a bad experience with our parents who only cared about their impression to the society. So she decided to keep her distance from them. I owe them a debt of gratitude for sending me to high school and college, so I don't want to cut them off. But I'm really disappointed in my parents because of this. I'm going to keep my relationship with them to the bare minimum. It's enough for me to have a sister who really thinks about me and stands by me. Of course, when she's in trouble, I will do my best to help her. First of all, for the sake of my unborn child, I have to be stronger. Blaming Anna based on mere assumptions without a proper examination. What a terrible husband and mother-in-law. And the parents who believe that and blame their own daughter without listening to her are also a problem. I'm so glad that Anna's sister is a wonderful person. It will probably not be easy being a single mother, but I'm sure she'll be fine. Please cherish the bond you have with your sister and live every day happily.